What if everything you know about the Bible is a lie? A stunning revelation from Russia claims the ancient Israelites were predominantly black, sending shockwaves through religious and academic circles worldwide. This isn't fringe speculation. Newly discovered documents and archaeological evidence are sparking intense debate and forcing a complete rethink of biblical history and our understanding of identity. This controversial claim, emerging from Russia, isn't confined to isolated corners of the internet. It's ignited a global firestorm, sparking intense debate across religious, academic, and political spheres. The implications are vast, reaching far beyond historical scholarship to challenge our understanding of identity, faith, and the very way we interpret the past. At the heart of this controversial claim lies a trove of newly unearthed artifacts and documents, reportedly discovered in Siberia. These include ancient scrolls, purportedly containing detailed descriptions of the physical characteristics of the ancient Israelites, descriptions that starkly contrast with the predominantly pale-skinned depictions common in Western art and media. The scrolls, according to Russian researchers, depict the Israelites as having dark skin, woolly hair, and other features commonly associated with African ancestry. This assertion isn't entirely new. It aligns with long-held beliefs within certain African American and Afro-Caribbean communities, particularly those associated with the Hebrew Israelite movement. These groups have long argued for an African origin for the Israelites, pointing to biblical descriptions and historical migration patterns as supporting evidence. However, Russia's claim distinguishes itself by its purported reliance on tangible, newly discovered evidence. Adding weight to the Russian claim are genetic studies reportedly conducted by international teams of geneticists. These studies, it's claimed, have traced shared genetic markers connecting certain African populations with ancient Semitic peoples in the Levant. This genetic evidence, when combined with the descriptions in the purported Siberian scrolls, strengthens the case for a potential African origin of the Israelites. Furthermore, Russian researchers claim to have unearthed artifacts and manuscripts hinting at deep cultural and migratory connections between ancient Israelites and regions within Africa. These include African-style pottery found in areas historically associated with ancient Israel, linguistic parallels between African and Semitic languages, and burial customs exhibiting striking similarities. The evidence is diverse and provocative. Russian archaeologists, collaborating with scholars from Africa and the Middle East, reportedly uncovered artifacts pointing to strong African influences in ancient Israelite culture. Pottery fragments unearthed at excavation sites in Israel and surrounding regions bear a resemblance to traditional African designs, suggesting either direct cultural exchange or a shared heritage. Similarly, burial practices in these regions align closely with those of ancient African societies. Language emerges as a crucial piece of the puzzle. Linguists involved in the research have identified notable similarities between ancient Hebrew and certain African languages, particularly those from the Cushitic and Nilotic families. These parallels, extending to vocabulary, syntax, and naming conventions, are interpreted by some scholars as evidence of prolonged contact or shared origins. While these findings are still subject to peer review, their potential to reshape our understanding of ancient linguistic and cultural diffusion is undeniable. Historical migration patterns further lend credibility to this theory. Ancient records, including those from Egyptian and Mesopotamian sources, document significant population movements between Africa and the Levant. These migrations, often driven by trade, conflict, or environmental factors, facilitated extensive cultural exchanges. Proponents argue that these interactions played a crucial role in shaping an Israelite identity deeply influenced by African culture and ancestry. However, the compelling nature of these claims hasn't gone unchallenged. Critics have raised significant objections, questioning both the validity of the evidence and the motivations behind the revelation. A primary critique focuses on the interpretation of the Siberian scrolls. Skeptics argue that these scrolls, if authentic, may have been misinterpreted or mistranslated to fit a predetermined narrative. Without independent verification and broader scholarly consensus, they caution against drawing definitive conclusions. The claims surrounding the African origin of the ancient Israelites have sparked a firestorm of debate. While proponents point to compelling evidence, critics raise important questions and concerns. The lack of independent verification of the Siberian scrolls is a major sticking point. Skeptics rightfully demand rigorous scrutiny before accepting such a dramatic reassessment of established narratives. The potential for misinterpretation or mistranslation of ancient texts, especially given the high stakes involved, is significant. Religious groups tied to traditional Judeo-Christian narratives have also expressed skepticism, dismissing the claims as an attempt to rewrite history for political or ideological purposes. They argue that the established portrayal of the Israelites, while undeniably shaped by centuries of European artistic and theological interpretation, remains grounded in historical and scriptural evidence. For them, the Russian claim represents a potential source of division within the global faith community. The timing of the revelation has further fueled controversy. Critics suggest that Russia's motives may extend beyond purely academic interest, potentially serving broader geopolitical objectives. By challenging Western-centric narratives of history and religion, Russia could be seeking to undermine Western cultural dominance and bolster its own ideological position on the global stage. This possibility has led some observers to question the impartiality of the research and view the claims with suspicion. The revelation has also garnered support within certain academic and religious circles. Scholars advocating for a more inclusive understanding of biblical history see the Russian claim as an opportunity to revisit old assumptions and engage in broader dialogue. For these advocates, the question isn't whether the Israelites were of African descent, but rather how such a possibility might enrich our understanding of the ancient world and its complex interconnections. The potential implications are far-reaching. If substantiated, Russia's claim would have profound implications for theology, history, and cultural identity. For African diasporic communities, the idea of an African origin for the Israelites resonates deeply, affirming long-standing narratives of ancestral pride and historical significance. It also challenges Eurocentric interpretations of biblical history, paving the way for a more diverse and inclusive understanding of religious and cultural heritage. In the academic realm, the claim has the potential to stimulate fresh research into the origins and migrations of ancient Semitic peoples. Archaeologists, linguists, geneticists, and theologians may find themselves re-examining established theories in light of the new evidence. This could lead to groundbreaking discoveries that reshape not only our understanding of the Israelites, but also the broader histories of the ancient Near East and Africa. Much work, however, remains to be done. Independent verification of the Siberian scrolls, along with further analysis of the genetic and archaeological evidence, is essential to validate the claims. International collaboration among scholars from diverse backgrounds will be critical to ensure that the research is conducted with transparency and rigor. The need for a multidisciplinary approach, incorporating archaeology, genetics, linguistics, and historical analysis, is paramount. The debate extends to the interpretation of existing evidence. While some scholars emphasize the potential for cultural exchange and shared heritage between ancient Israelite and African cultures, others caution against oversimplifying complex historical interactions. The presence of African-style pottery in ancient Israel, for instance, could be interpreted as evidence of trade, migration, or even independent cultural development. Similarly, linguistic similarities could reflect contact, borrowing, or a shared linguistic ancestor. The very notion of race as a biological construct applicable to ancient populations requires careful consideration. The fluid nature of identity and cultural exchange in the ancient world challenges simplistic modern categories. The potential for bias in the interpretation of both new and existing evidence necessitates a critical and nuanced approach. The scrutiny of the methodology used in the genetic studies is also crucial. Determining the precise populations sampled and the statistical rigor of the analysis are key factors in evaluating the validity of the genetic evidence. If accepted, the revelation that the Israelites were predominantly black would represent a seismic shift in biblical studies, challenging centuries of Eurocentric interpretation and reshaping how scholars understand the cultural and ethnic landscape of the ancient world. For much of history, Western depictions of biblical figures have been heavily influenced by European art and theology, often portraying central figures like Moses, King David, and Jesus Christ with distinctly European features. These portrayals, rooted in the cultural biases of their time, excluded African and Middle Eastern perspectives and minimized the contributions of Black and African peoples to the biblical narrative. Positioning the Israelites as a Black people demands a fundamental recontextualization of key biblical stories. The Exodus, for instance, might be re-examined not only as a tale of liberation from Egypt but also as part of a broader African cultural and political milieu. Similarly, the reign of King Solomon, long celebrated for its wisdom and wealth, could be viewed through the lens of African influences, potentially drawing connections to other great civilizations on the continent, such as Nubia and Kush. Even the Babylonian captivity might take on new dimensions, shedding light on the interaction between African-descended Israelites and other ancient Near Eastern powers. This perspective necessitates a renaissance in biblical scholarship. Long-standing assumptions about the geography, culture, and ethnicity of biblical figures would need to be revisited. Scholars would be compelled to adopt interdisciplinary approaches, incorporating archaeology, genetics, and cultural anthropology, to construct a more accurate picture of the biblical world. Genetic studies linking African populations to ancient Semitic peoples could provide invaluable insights into migration patterns and intercontinental exchanges. Similarly, archaeological findings, such as African-style artifacts discovered in ancient Israel, could be analyzed more rigorously to explore their implications for Israelite culture. Moreover, this revelation could elevate the significance of African civilizations in the ancient world, highlighting their role not as peripheral players but as central contributors to early Judeo-Christian traditions. The Hebrew Bible itself contains numerous references to African nations such as Egypt, Kush, modern-day Sudan, Ethiopia, and Sheba, yet these connections have often been overlooked or downplayed in Western theology. Recognizing the Israelites as a Black people places Africa at the heart of the biblical narrative, acknowledging its profound influence on the spiritual and cultural heritage of humanity. The implications extend beyond academic circles. Seminaries and religious institutions would need to revise curricula to reflect these findings. Textbooks, sermons, and teaching materials would grapple with the implications of a predominantly Black Israelite identity, inspiring a more inclusive and multicultural approach to theology. Such a shift could challenge the dominance of Eurocentric interpretations in global Christianity, encouraging believers to embrace a more diverse and historically grounded understanding of their faith. For African Americans and other Black communities worldwide, this revelation carries profound social, cultural, and spiritual significance. Many African Americans trace their lineage to the transatlantic slave trade, a brutal chapter in history that sought to strip them of their identities, cultures, and ancestral connections. The idea that the Israelites, central figures in one of the world's most influential religious traditions, were Black offers a powerful counter-narrative to centuries of marginalization. This understanding reaffirms the dignity and resilience of Black identity, offering a historical and spiritual foundation that predates the traumas of colonialism and slavery. It reminds many that their ancestors were not merely victims of oppression but key players in the development of civilization and spirituality. Viewed through the lens of Black history, the Israelites' story of liberation and covenant with God takes on renewed meaning, resonating deeply with the struggles and triumphs of African diasporic communities. In practical terms, this revelation could inspire a renewed sense of purpose and pride among African Americans. Cultural and religious organizations might draw on this insight to foster greater self-awareness and unity, encouraging individuals to embrace their heritage as part of a broader biblical and historical narrative. Educational initiatives could integrate these findings into school curricula, empowering young people with a more accurate and affirming understanding of their place in history. The impact of this revelation would extend far beyond the United States. In Africa, where many communities have long claimed connections to the Israelites, the validation of these claims would be a source of immense pride and solidarity. Nations such as Ethiopia, with its rich tradition of Judaic and Christian heritage, could find their historical narratives further affirmed. Similarly, Afro-Caribbean, and Afro-Latin American communities, many of whom share a deep spiritual connection to the biblical story, would see their cultural identities elevated and legitimized on the world stage. The revelation of a potential African origin for the Israelites has implications that extend far beyond the realm of religious and academic discourse. It's a catalyst for significant cultural, political, and diplomatic shifts on a global scale. Culturally, the revelation has inspired a renaissance in Black art, literature, and music. For many artists, the idea of Black Israelites serves as a profound source of inspiration, offering a narrative of historical and spiritual significance that redefines perceptions of Blackness. Writers have begun exploring themes of identity, resilience, and divine purpose, crafting novels, poems, and essays that draw on the imagery of a Black Israelite heritage. Musicians, too, have found creative fuel in the revelation, producing songs and albums that celebrate the idea of a sacred lineage and its relevance to contemporary struggles for justice and dignity. Visual artists have embraced the opportunity to reimagine biblical scenes, portraying figures such as Moses, David, and Solomon with African features and cultural motifs. These depictions challenge traditional iconography, offering a more inclusive vision of biblical history. Exhibitions showcasing these works have drawn large crowds, sparking discussions about the role of art in shaping historical and cultural narratives. This cultural movement holds the potential to reshape global perceptions of Black identity, emphasizing its deep roots in history and its profound contributions to spirituality and civilization. Politically, the revelation has added fuel to ongoing debates about reparations, racial justice, and representation. Activists argue that acknowledging the Israelites as Black strengthens the case for reparative justice, highlighting the historical contributions and suffering of Black communities. They view the revelation as evidence of the systemic erasure and marginalization of African peoples in history, calling for renewed efforts to address the legacies of slavery, colonialism, and racial discrimination. In the United States, the revelation has energized discussions about reparations for African Americans. Advocates see it as a powerful tool for reframing the conversation, emphasizing not only the injustices of slavery but also the historical significance of Black peoples in shaping global civilization. This perspective challenges the narrative of Black inferiority perpetuated by centuries of systemic racism, offering a vision of empowerment and pride. On a global scale, the revelation challenges Western dominance in shaping historical narratives. For centuries, European powers have controlled the interpretation and dissemination of history, often downplaying or erasing the contributions of non-European peoples. By positioning Africa as central to the biblical story, the revelation empowers formerly colonized nations to reclaim their histories and assert their place in the global narrative. This shift could inspire broader efforts to decolonize history, encouraging scholars and educators to prioritize diverse perspectives and challenge entrenched biases. The revelation has also prompted diplomatic discussions, particularly in Africa and the Middle East. Nations with historical ties to the Israelites, such as Ethiopia and Sudan, have expressed interest in the findings, viewing them as an opportunity to highlight their cultural and historical significance. These discussions have the potential to foster new alliances and collaborations, strengthening ties between African and Middle Eastern nations and promoting a shared sense of heritage. At the same time, the revelation has sparked controversy in the geopolitical arena. Some observers have accused Russia of using the findings to undermine Western cultural dominance, framing the revelation as part of a broader strategy to challenge Eurocentric narratives. These accusations have fueled debates about the motivations behind the research and its implications for global power dynamics. The potential for the revelation to be used as a tool in international relations underscores the complex interplay between history, identity, and geopolitical strategy. The interpretation and application of this historical claim are far from neutral, with the potential for significant political ramifications. The revelation that the Israelites were predominantly Black has ignited a storm of debate and discussion among religious and academic communities worldwide. In the United States, many Black churches have embraced the findings with enthusiasm. For generations, these churches have been centers of community resilience and spiritual empowerment, often interpreting biblical narratives through the lens of African American struggles. The revelation has provided these congregations with a powerful new narrative to incorporate into sermons, Bible studies, and community discussions. Pastors have drawn parallels between the Israelites' story of liberation from bondage and the African American experience of slavery and civil rights struggles, finding fresh inspiration in the possibility that the Israelites themselves may have shared their ancestors' African heritage. For Hebrew Israelite congregations, the revelation represents a long-awaited vindication of their teachings. These communities have long asserted that the Israelites were people of African descent, basing their beliefs on biblical descriptions, historical accounts, and spiritual conviction. The acknowledgement of their claims by Russian researchers has reinforced their sense of identity and mission. Many within these groups view the revelation as a divine affirmation of their faith and an opportunity to expand their outreach efforts. Conferences, worship services, and public lectures organized by Hebrew Israelite communities have seen a surge in attendance, reflecting the growing interest in their teachings. In contrast, the reaction from mainstream Christian and Jewish institutions has been far more cautious. Many leaders within these traditions have expressed concerns about the historical accuracy of the findings, emphasizing the need for rigorous scholarly validation before accepting such claims. Some have dismissed the revelation outright, arguing that it is based on speculative interpretations of artifacts and texts. These leaders worry that an overemphasis on the Israelites' racial identity could overshadow the universal spiritual messages of the Bible, potentially dividing believers along racial lines. The fear of misinterpreting Scripture and fostering division within already diverse religious communities is a significant concern. In academic circles, responses have been similarly polarized. Some scholars welcome the revelation as an opportunity to revisit and revise historical narratives that have long been shaped by Eurocentric biases. They view this as a moment to explore the cultural and ethnic diversity of the ancient Near East, employing interdisciplinary approaches to uncover new insights. Archaeologists, geneticists, and historians have begun collaborating on studies aimed at verifying the claims, organizing symposiums and conferences to discuss the implications. Attendance at these events has been unprecedented, signaling widespread interest in the topic. Conversely, other academics have expressed skepticism, fearing that the revelation could be misused to fuel racial tensions. Critics argue that emphasizing the Israelites' racial identity risks reducing complex historical and spiritual narratives to simplistic categories of race. They caution against allowing modern political and cultural agendas to distort the interpretation of ancient history. For these scholars, the focus should remain on broader themes of faith, resilience, and liberation that transcend racial and ethnic boundaries. The concern is that focusing too heavily on racial identity could overshadow the universal themes of the biblical narrative. Despite the mixed reactions, one thing is clear: the revelation has opened a new chapter in the study of biblical history, sparking conversations that were long overdue. Whether embraced or contested, the findings have compelled religious and academic communities alike to grapple with the complexities of identity, heritage, and historical truth. The intense debate highlights the significant implications of this claim, impacting how we view not just history but also our present-day understanding of race, religion, and identity. The lack of consensus underscores the need for continued research, rigorous analysis, and open dialogue to fully comprehend the implications of this controversial revelation. Russia's revelation about the Black biblical Israelites is more than a historical curiosity, it's a call to action. It invites us to question long-held assumptions, confront uncomfortable truths, and embrace a more inclusive understanding of human history. For African Americans and Black communities worldwide, it represents an opportunity to reclaim their place in the biblical narrative, affirming their identity and heritage. The reactions, ranging from celebration to skepticism, highlight the power of history to shape our present and future. As the world grapples with this revelation, one thing is clear: the story of the Israelites, like the story of humanity itself, is richer and more complex than we ever imagined. This moment of reckoning offers a chance for unity, understanding, and a deeper appreciation of the shared threads that connect us all. Whether embraced or contested, this revelation will leave an indelible mark on the cultural and spiritual fabric of our time. The ongoing debate underscores the importance of critical thinking, rigorous scholarship, and open-minded dialogue. The lack of conclusive evidence necessitates a cautious approach, avoiding hasty generalizations and unsubstantiated claims. However, the very existence of this debate forces a crucial reconsideration of long-held assumptions and biases within biblical scholarship and broader historical interpretations. The potential for misinterpretation and the risk of politicizing the past highlight the need for responsible scholarship and a commitment to rigorous methodologies. Independent verification of the Russian findings is crucial. Further genetic analysis, archaeological investigation, and linguistic studies are needed to strengthen or refute the claims. International collaboration between scholars from diverse backgrounds is essential to ensure objectivity and transparency. This isn't just about rewriting history, it's about reimagining our understanding of the past to build a more inclusive and equitable future. It's about recognizing the contributions of all peoples, regardless of race or ethnicity, in shaping human civilization and spiritual traditions. The revelation, whether ultimately proven true or false, serves as a powerful catalyst for a broader conversation about the importance of diverse perspectives, the dangers of historical biases, and the urgent need for a more accurate and inclusive understanding of our shared past. The legacy of colonialism and the enduring impact of systemic racism necessitate a critical examination of how history has been written and interpreted. The revelation challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths and actively work towards dismantling structures of oppression and inequality. By embracing a more nuanced and inclusive understanding of the past, we can build a future based on justice, equity, and mutual respect. The story of the Israelites, regardless of their origins, remains a powerful narrative of faith, resilience, and the enduring human spirit. Let this revelation inspire us to deepen our understanding of this narrative and to continue to strive for a more just and inclusive world.